So Baker Mayfield plays arguably his best game as an NFL player, and he does so against the Cincinnati Bengals. It should be pointed out that everybody seems to be playing their best game as a professional player against the Cincinnati Bengals. I called my first game on play-by-play on radio 2 weeks ago, or actually it was 3 games ago, 2.5 weeks ago, whatever. It was the New Orleans Saints against the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Saints did not punt. Did not punt the entire game. They fired their defensive coordinator shortly after that game. Then they faced the Baltimore Ravens, who were coming off of a bye, and they started Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens got a win. And then Baker Mayfield came in and laid down a haymaker as they smashed the Cincinnati Bengals. Why is that? Because the Cincinnati Bengals suck. They're not good at football, especially on the defensive side, and they're not much better on offense without A.J. Green, without Andy Dalton, who kind of like Joe Flacco has been exposed to be everything we thought he would be, as, slightly better than what you'd normally get out of a second-round pick at quarterback, but not a star quarterback. And the Bengals are who we thought they were, and maybe even worse on the defensive side. So Baker throws 19 for 26, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. It's a hell of a game. And they seem to be all on the same page offensively, which is why a coaching change was made. Remember, it wasn't just because they were bad and losing close games. It was because Hue Jackson, their then head coach, and Todd Haley, their then offensive coordinator, couldn't seem to coexist. And so instead of picking sides, the owner and the general manager came in and said, guess what? You're both fired. So after having a 3-touchdown, no interception performance and a win against the Atlanta Falcons 2 weeks before, coming off of a bye and getting the Cincinnati Bengals. And by the way, how about the Bengals getting 2 straight divisional opponents, both coming off a bye? Look, I don't think that they're very good in Cincinnati. Matter of fact, I think they're awful. But man, that almost feels like unfair scheduling that, wait, we have to go back-to-back weeks off teams coming off of a bye? Wow. Anyway, he follows up 3 touchdowns, no interceptions with 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. And then there was that weird, and we've all had this moment, right? Women do this thing and couples do this thing when you do I do the side cheek kiss thing? That is just all kinds of awkward. Who invented that? I want to know. Good inventions, back shoulder throws. That's a great invention. Right? The defense is playing on the goal, on the end zone side defensively. Right? They're worried about the ball being thrown over the top. So Phil Simms told me that he was the first to do the back shoulder throw. Some people said it's Dan Marino. Obviously, guys have perfected it now in the National Football League. We'll talk about Aaron Rodgers, as good a back shoulder thrower as there is. Some people get credit for back shoulder throws because they're inaccurate and they don't have much of an arm. But regardless of which, back shoulder throw, great invention. Great invention. But the side cheek kiss, who started that? Either you're comfortable enough in your current relationship and the person you went on a couple's date with to kiss somebody else on the cheek, Euro style, right? Or go straight in there for the lips, or shake hands, or maybe hug it out. But there's nothing as uncomfortable as somebody coming up to you like they're going to kiss you, only they kind of kiss your cheek but don't actually kiss their cheek. And that somehow is a way of saying hello with somebody who's a friend or the wife of a friend. You guys know what I'm talking about? Is there a name for that thing? I don't know. The male equivalent of the side cheek kiss thing is the bro hug, is the shug, if you will. Right? Like I shake hands and I come on in. That's not bringing it in and hugging it out. Hugging it out is hugging it out. That is, I shake hands, but you're a little bit better than shaking hands is so formal. Let's get in there and give a little pat on the back, and then we're good. That's all Hue Jackson went for. Hey, man, congratulations, great job. That's all he went for. Baker wasn't having it. All right, it's awkward afterwards. He was asked about Hue Jackson, who's now, he's not even an assistant coach. He's like an advisor to the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that he used to be their offensive coordinator with. And Baker had this to say.
Left Cleveland, goes down to Cincinnati. I don't know. That's just somebody that was in our locker room asking for us to play for him and then goes to a different team. We play twice a year. Everybody can have their spin on it, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, that's how I feel. He went on to double down, and whether it was Todd Haley or Hue Jackson or both, he said that, the difference in the offense is now we have guys calling plays who believe in us, which is a shot across the bow at Hue, because the thought in Cleveland and the thought obviously with some of the players is what Hue Jackson said when he said, hey, I never got to run the offense I want because I didn't get the players I want. That's a shot at the players. And so this is Baker in defense mode, protecting not only himself, but also his teammates. Here's the problem with it. In an effort to defend his teammates and say what he honestly believes to be true and to be clear about his thoughts and not be politically correct, he actually made Hue Jackson into a sympathetic figure. Because the truth is, if we really want to get into the truth, there's a lot about Hue Jackson's tenure in Cleveland that even Baker is not privy to. Like the year before, when there were quarterbacks like Carson Wentz taken at the start of the draft. When there were quarterbacks like Mitch Trubisky, who grew up in the state of Ohio, taken at the top of the draft, and the Browns did not select. There were quarterbacks like Pat Mahomes taken in the draft, and the Browns did not select them. So while we all internalize comments made generally, that's just what we do. Hey, we didn't have the guys we want. Baker thinks you're talking about me, you're talking about my guys. Maybe it's just that the year before, he actually wanted to take Pat Mahomes. And for the front office said, no, we're not doing that. We're going another direction. Here, make it work with DeShone Kizer. Congratulations, you won DeShone Kizer. But look, this really goes down to the Trump thing. Comes back to the Trump thing. So many of you are so tired of political correctness that when somebody says something that you believe to be honest, no matter how spiteful, no matter how venomous, no matter how derogatory towards somebody else, you go, well, at least it wasn't politically correct. That's what you say. But there are some jobs, there are some moments where decorum is needed. Right? Decorum is needed. Somebody dies. You don't talk about their side piece the day that they die. Okay? Well, he really wasn't that good a father. Hey. I mean, heck, George Steinbrenner dies, and nobody mentioned the fact that he was kicked out of baseball because of what he did to Dave Winfield. No, because he dies, and you're like, well, he was a rich guy who tried to ruin Dave Winfield, and it did take him, like 2 decades of losing and throwing money at stuff before he lucked into Derek Jeter and Mariano Rivera, and then they bought a bunch of pitchers and won a bunch of World Series, and somehow now we revere him. Nobody said that when he died. Why? Because when somebody dies, there's moments where you have to take a breath and have decorum. That's really the issue with the president on Twitter. It's like, look, even if that's really how you feel, dude, you're the president. You represent all of us. That's not the language and style by which you should be representing us. Whether you agree or disagree with what he's saying, that is a moot point. And when a guy gets fired in the NFL, he got fired. And let me explain how it works, not just to Baker, because he doesn't seem to care. He's running roughshod over anybody who's showing sympathy towards Hue Jackson. I don't think Hue Jackson is a good head coach. I didn't think it would work initially. I didn't think it would work in Oakland, and I didn't think it would work because I talked to enough people in the NFL who are like, yeah, good offensive guy, not really a head coach. And if you watched Hard Knocks, you're like, yeah, that probably makes sense. If you lose not one, but 2 different head coaching jobs in the NFL, everybody can fail once. People think Belichick failed once. Failing twice, you're not going to be a head coach again. So you got like 30 teams now you can choose from, because you're not going to go from being head coach to being an assistant coach with the same team. Not going back to Oakland. So now you're down to 30 jobs. And by the way, if you saw him on TV, when he tried to do the Hue Jackson tour, it wasn't like you're like, hire that guy on TV. So he's supposed to not go back to Cincinnati, where he's coaching with a friend who's also probably going to lose his job. Like Hue Jackson's going to run the rare double of getting fired as a coach twice in one season. Although you never know at Cincinnati. They're so weird. They may give Marvin 5 more years after this disastrous season because A.J. Green got hurt. We just don't do this. You don't do it in business. Guy gets fired. You take the high road. Well, I'm just so tired of coaches and coordinators and players being politically correct. Like, that's cool. That's cool. Would you really like Hue Jackson to tell you everything that went into drafting Baker and all of the reason that they didn't let Baker take snaps with the ones to start the year? I'm sure if he wants to, he can find some negativity. That sure not every day in dealing with another human being, especially one who appears to be as immature as Baker Mayfield is. He can find some negativity, but he didn't. In an effort to defend himself, he made himself look foolish and or maybe in an effort to tell the truth about why Cleveland never got off the ground. He was like, look, I never got the guys that I wanted. And because he wasn't specific, and many of the interviews didn't ask him to be specific, guys who are still there are like, oh, that's messed up. But this happens all the time. And for a guy who's been the least successful coach in the history of the sport, he's going to take any job. And, oh, yeah, by the way, players get cut all the time. And usually the first people to call them are people in their division because you get a little information. And, oh, yeah, by the way, at some point, he must have done something that was of value for the other franchise to hire him to begin with. But to me, it just strikes me as, look, Baker Mayfield's one of these guys that has been told he couldn't for a long time. And it's an unbelievable story. Yes, I know he had scholarship offers that he turned down to walk on at Tech. And I know that he didn't have a scholarship waiting for him when he returned to Tech. Now, it should be pointed out that they had this kid named Pat Mahomes coming in who turned out to be pretty damn good. And maybe, just maybe, Cliff Kingsbury was like, look, dude, I'm going to put you on scholarship. I have Davis Webb. I got Pat Mahomes. Like, I don't need another quarterback to compete. Sorry, thanks, appreciate it. But it's not even, I understand that Baker Mayfield was told no time and again, and he has all of these chips on his shoulder. And when he was drafted number 1 overall, there are people like me saying, hey, I think Sam Darnold's actually a little bit better, even though Baker Mayfield's really good. But this is not time to put all those chips out on the table and go, you didn't believe in me. You won a game. You played great. Your former coach came in for that awkward shake, hug thing, and you kept it, not even as friends, gentlemanly, and shook his hand. All right. Hey, man, we thank him for his time here. Hope things work out for him well in Cincinnati. We're on to whoever they play next week. He showed himself like Kevin Durant to be totally insecure, to have rabbit ears. And instead of being above it, he was below it. In an effort to defend himself and his teammates, he actually made Hue into a sympathetic figure. Even though the truth is, Hue can't coach. Can't be a head coach. Can't do it. Won't happen again. And Baker can play. But man, you showed that's just a bad look. You just don't do it.